for, and what does healing like really mean? What does it really look like?
So when a patient comes in, right, or somebody that wants to take benefit from a unified therapy, you have to make an assessment. So maybe there's a short-term goal and a long-term goal. So the short-term goal may be, I've had chronic pain, I've had chronic fatigue, I've had fibromyalgia, I've had migraines most of my whole life. So the short-term goal would be, hey, being free from that, to actually have that person free of any kind of symptom. And when we talk about the difference between curing and healing, there's another level to that. So the curing part would be kind of like, wow, this is gone, it doesn't consume my life anymore. I don't have these overwhelming menstrual cramps, I don't have the anxiety disorder. And those are big short-term goals, especially, which is what we welcome a lot of therapies. I mean, of people that have gone through therapies that have been unsuccessful, or you'll see there's been many, many, many different practitioners, many different interventions, and that excites me because it gives me an opportunity to give that person maybe first-time relief, but also to explore that, again, that interrelationship between the brain-body that has become dysregulated. And of course, when people come in, we always go through a pretty extensive history, not just the physical examination, but often to us, more importantly, is the history of stress and trauma. And for a long time, people would say, well, why are you giving me this thing? Why are you asking me about what happened as a child? Why are you asking me my relationship with a parent? And again, we're finally got validation for that in the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experience, because it's showing that those adverse childhood experiences alter our perception of how we take care of ourselves and how we treat ourselves. So when we say a high degree of adverse or childhood stress or trauma can lead to anxiety or depression or back pain or etc., there's the dysfunctional pathway comes in how a person treats and what they do to themselves. So a person that has that won't necessarily be in contact with their body and have feedback, and so they may choose not to eat well, they may choose to get into relationships that are very toxic. They won't be able to pick up the signals in their body that feel good, because basically we go numb to survive, and so they can't tell what's good for them, they can't tell what's bad for them. So then long-term goal is that more mysterious phenomenon which we want people to experience is a sense of transcendence over certain belief systems and concepts that they have in their life. And many, many people have never felt a feeling of love or connectedness. Maybe their parents or whatever situation they were in never got the chance to really experience that. What was so phenomenal to me is that under certain conditions, when you open up the nervous system, it spontaneously generates feelings and sensations that transcend the normal. And once a person has that experience, it opens up a whole new realm of possibilities and gets them free of this ever longing or this perpetual dysfunctional system that keeps trying to play out the relationships that were never complete and never will be complete, say with the parents or absence of parents or so on. So that, to me, is one of the things that drives me the most, is that people can have that experience. In many communities, of course, people consider that to be extraordinary or spiritual, But whatever it is, I don't care about the labels. All I care is about that when somebody does have that experience, they're often forever different. There's something different about them. And it sort of gets them off the merry-go-round of whatever happened to them, whatever they're exposed to, that they can begin to see that there's something much greater. And the look in those people's face, the feeling in their eyes, the way they talk, if you're ever in the presence of somebody that has a genuine healing experience, you'll know it. And what's exciting to us is that, oh my God, we can make this somewhat reproducible. That it's just part of the goal is to create an increased awareness and consciousness.
So you don't really, not to cut you off, doctor, so you don't necessarily have to be in pain then? This could be...
No, but pain, but it still could happen when a person's in pain, but then they have this realization or a conscious realization that their attachment to the things that they hold on to, even though they're not real, none of this stuff is basically, most of it's not real, it's old programs, and that they can delete that, and then freedom, basically start to see, has no history. There's no history that is controlling them. Because you understand that most of this is very unconscious. You know, it isn't that a person is consciously making these choices or consciously putting themselves in the pain. But what's so exciting that, again, chronic pain, which is the #1 sort of medical condition in the world, and most of it, of course, was previously unexplained, is this dysfunctional pathways in our brain that overstimulate often centers that have to do with motion and memory and generate these strong pain cycles. And to be able to take somebody out of that, to say that maybe for the first time in human history we can end the cycle of chronic pain is, I mean, beyond huge. It's beyond what any of us could ever imagine. And thank you to all the people that laid down the found work before us. A lot of people that, of course, weren't even looking at that, but just realized certain things about brain, about personality. Even in the self-enrichment and developmental courses, even in the Buddhist studies, I mean, there's some very rich information there beyond any kind of religious connotations, you know, without getting stuck in that. What on a real practical basis can be used and as an application to break people out of pain and suffering.
And so you would say by regulating that nervous system could be the thing that...
Well, regulation happens by itself.
Okay.
We're just working and reading the signals and waiting at certain time to put certain signals in. Sometimes those signals are auditory or cognitive things that we may give them at critical moments. A huge amount of it is sensory based. A huge amount of it is getting people out of the left brain and more into right brain, because kind of across the board we kind of agree, and Alan Shore and the others say that early stressful experience pushes us too much into the left brain. We shut down the right brain. We overstimulate limbic, emotional areas, stressful areas, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, autonomic, and we're sort of stuck in that mode, And if we shift people more into the right brain, the thinking brain, the feeling brain, the healing brain, again, left is a thinking brain, right is a healing brain. You need that skill. It's just a skill, but once it happens and it opens up, extraordinary experiences beyond any of our current understanding, but has been noticed throughout human history. There's always those experiences that people talk about, but to be able to reproduce them, to be able to take somebody and say, listen, okay, you've been doing this, or you've been doing this practice, or this spiritual practice, or whatever, or I've been doing yoga for years, and say, listen, okay, do you really want to see what's going on? Do you want to really see if those skills can sustain you? Because until you're able to release and regulate and let go of all those things that hurt you, right, and stressed you, you will never be free. And when you see that it's really basically an illusion, and that you can let go of it, you have the skill to do that, that's huge. Needless to say, when you're dealing with these things and we bring them up, they often feel as real as the first time you experience it, even though you can open your eyes and look around and know that you're not, right? The feelings, the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the self-loathing, the guilt, the shame is very strong. But as one develops one's ability, we believe it's the frontal cortex over the prefrontal cortex, over these fear centers, true freedom happens. And people make different choices. They make healthy choices. They take choices where it's more centered on taking care of themselves, but also about the whole. It isn't just about themselves. As they get healthier, they see their place in the world, and they're much more compassionate, much more understanding and connected to the world as a whole, rather than being so narcissistically based, where everything's about themselves and their own pain and their own diseases and their own problem, and they become obsessed with that. And that drives suffering more.